Jeopardy! Please welcome our contestants. Player one. And now, here is the host of Jeopardy, Alex Brevet.
Thanks, Johnny. Welcome to Jeopardy, everyone. Good luck to you in the Jeopardy round. For this game, the categories are as follows. MONROE'S. You're so subtractive. Ships. Edgar Allan Poe. TV shows by Emmy winner. And what's the word? Okay, let's get back into this. Player one, you make the next selection as we continue. On a snail, an onomatophore is a stalk with this at the end. Yes, player one? Good. Select again. According to an 1833 description, Poe dressed entirely in this color. It's player one. Correct. You again, player one. Answer? The Daily Double. And you have the lead. How much? Here is your Daily Double clue. 99 minus 55 minus 33 minus 11 equals this. Good. Player one. Pick again. 1940s singing star Vaughn Monroe had a rich voice in this middle male range, hence the nickname Old Leather Tonsils. Okay, player one. Correct. Player one, back to you for our next selection. The submarine U.S.S. Nautilus was the first ocean-going vessel to use this form of power. Player one. No, that's not right. Here's the correct response. Nuclear power. Player one, back to you. Poe won an 1833 short story contest with a story about one of these found in a bottle. Player one. Nope. Sorry. Here's the response we were looking for. A manuscript. Player one, back to you. It's 237 minus 113. It's player one. Yeah! That is correct. Player one. Pick again. In 1948, she had one line in Love Happy, the last Marx Brothers movie. Here's the correct response. Marilyn Monroe. Please pick again, player one. 2011. Julianna Margulies. Here's what we were looking for. The Good Wife. You again, player one. If you set some Chinese punk on fire, it's because Chinese punk is this, from the Latin for set on fire. We're talking about incense. You again, player one. If you've got quinsy, also known as tonsillitis, you've got swelling in this part of your body. Yes, player one? That's correct.
Yeah! Woo!
We return to you, player one. See Marion Monroe train as a child psychologist and co-write the book starring this unexciting boy-girl pair. Here's the correct response. Dick and Jane. Player one, back to you for our next selection. On a sailing ship, these can be buntlines, downhauls, or sheets. Let's hear it, player one. No, sorry. Here's the response we were looking for. Ropes. Please pick again, player 1. 117 minus 47 minus 10 equals this. It's player 1. That is correct. Player 1, back to you. Apollo 15's command module was named in honor of this ship commanded by Captain James Cook. Here's the response we were looking for. Endeavour. Please pick again, player 1. Poe's wife, who passed away at age 24, had this name, like the state at whose university Edgar studied. Here's the correct response. Virginia. Select again. 2009, Glenn Close. We're talking about damages. Player 1, pick again. A SHAKO is a stiff, cylindrical one of these worn by soldiers. The correct response is a hat. Please pick again, player 1. Forget DiMaggio and BERRA. The secret to the Yankees' 11 pennants from 1947 to 1960 was Lucy Monroe's singing of this. We're talking about the Star-Spangled Banner. Select again. Before its name was changed, this ship of Sir Francis Drake was known as the Pelican. The correct response is Golden Hind. Player 1, back to you. 2009, Bryan Cranston. Here's the correct response. Breaking Bad. Player 1, back to you for our next selection. The first obituary of Poe, which spoke of the frailties of genius, appeared in this city's Sun newspaper. Here's what we wanted. Baltimore. You get to pick again, player 1. 1127 minus 121 minus 116 equals this. Player 1.
Yeah!
That is correct. You again, player 1. 2004, Cynthia Nixon. We're talking about Sex and the City. Player 1, you pick again, please. In 1912, Harriet Monroe launched the magazine simply called This. It soon published T.S. Eliot and Ezra Pound. The correct response is poetry. Please pick again, player 1. From the Latin for diminish, it's the term for a number from which another number is subtracted. It's player 1. No. The correct response is the minuend. Player 1, back to you. In 1838, the SIRIUS became the first steamship to cross this ocean using steam power alone. Yes, player 1? You got it.
Yeah! Woo!
Select again. In 1842, Poe reviewed this British author's Barnaby Rudge, which features, a human-like raven. Here's what we wanted. Charles Dickens. Player 1, you pick again, please. 2008, Alec Baldwin. Here's the correct response. 30 Rock. And we'll wrap up the board with this clue. It's the medium on which you're traveling if you're in a hoy. We're talking about water. The Jeopardy round will begin right after this. Clues are worth $400 to $2,000 in these categories. What can Brown do for you? General information. From page to screen. When they were in high school. food words and phrases, and science guys. All right, if you're ready, it's double Jeopardy time. This general, first in his class at West Point, ran for president in 2004. Let's hear it, player one. Sorry, that's wrong. Here's the correct response. Wesley Clark. Please pick again, player one. This old soldier was a general at age 38. In 1930, at age 50, he was Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army. The correct response is Douglas MacArthur. You again, player one. Answer, the first of the daily doubles. You are in the lead right now. Decide on your wager, player one. And the clue. More than 540,000 men and women served under this general's command of the U.S. forces in the Persian Gulf War of 1991. No, that's not right. The correct response is Norman Schwarzkopf. Player one, choose again. The only place this general wouldn't march was to the presidency. In 1884, he told the GOP, "I will not accept if nominated." Player one? That's it. We return to you, player one. This Army general headed American-led forces during the initial combat phase of the Iraq War as it began in 2003. We're talking about Tommy Franks. Player one, back to you for our next selection. He ran track at Skyline High in Oakland. Good practice for the role of Forrest Gump. Yes, player one? You are correct. Player one, choose again. As a teen in British Columbia, she said her goal was to be a California beach bum. She got her wish on Baywatch. Here's the correct response. Pamela Anderson. You again, player one. To make extra money, she sometimes cleaned out the tour bus for her mom Naomi and sister Winona. Here's what we wanted. Ashley Judd. Player one, choose again. As a high school basketball star in Irvington, New Jersey, this royal rapper led her team to 2 state championships. Yes, player one? You got it. Player one, back to you. He played quarterback for the Terrell High School Tigers before he won an Oscar for playing Ray Charles. Let's hear it, player one. Nope. Here's what we were looking for. Jamie Foxx. Player one, you pick again, please. His grandfather, Erasmus, argued in favor of evolution 60 years before he took up the cause himself. Okay, player one. That's correct.
Yeah! Woo!
Player one, back to you. In 1920, he was named director of the Institute of Theoretical Physics in Copenhagen. The correct response is Niels Bohr. Player one, back to you. This German physicist won a 1918 Nobel Prize for his quantum theory. Let's hear it, player one.
Oh.
No, sorry. Here's the correct response. Max Planck. We return to you, player one. Until his death in 1907, this chemist headed the Weights and Measures Bureau in St. Petersburg, Russia. Here's what we were looking for. Dmitri Mendeleev. Player one, back to you for our next selection. In 1855, Napoleon III swung a deal arranging for this man's appointment as physicist at the Paris Observatory. Here's what we were looking for. Jean Foucault. You again, player one. Someone suddenly saying flattering things to you may just be doing this, like you'd do to bread. Player one?
Yeah.
Good. Player one, back to you. This condiment's name once meant the genuine article, so to cut it meant to be good enough. Let's hear it, player one.
Yeah.
Yes. Player one, you pick again, please. When a baseball player barely makes a catch, the way the ball and the glove look is known as this sweet treat. We're talking about an ice cream cone. We return to you, player one. It's something added, perhaps piped on, to make a good thing even better. Let's hear it, player one. Here's the correct response. Frosting. Player one, pick again. A woman's sleeve that's full at the top and gathered at the wrist is called leg of this. The correct response is mutton. Player one, back to you for our next selection. 69 years apart, Lillian Gish and Demi Moore got an A for effort for starring in films based on this classic novel. We're talking about The Scarlet Letter. You again, player one. The film A&P is based on a story by this Rabbit Run author. We're talking about John Updike. Please pick again, player one. Oh, Rochester. William Hurt was in the 1996 version of this oft-filmed Bronte classic. Here's what we wanted. Jane Eyre. Player one, back to you for our next selection. Marilyn Monroe longed to play Grushenka in the 1958 film of this Dostoevsky saga, but Maria Schell got the part. Here's the correct response. The Brothers Karamazov. Player one, choose again. Fitzgerald didn't finish this novel, so screenwriter Harold Pinter had to come up with an ending for the 1976 film. Here's the correct response. The Last Tycoon. Select again. He was Britain's Prime Minister from 2007 to 2010. Here's the response we were looking for. Gordon Brown. Player one, choose again. On December 2nd, 1859, this militant abolitionist was hanged for treason. It's player one. That's it. Select again. And sir, the second daily double. You are in the lead right now. How much? And the clue. With his 12,313th rushing yard, he passed Jim Brown on the all-time NFL rushing list in 1984. Yes. Player one, back to you. The GK in the name of this Father Brown creator stood for Gilbert Keith. The correct response is Chesterton. And the $2,000 clue? Harold Brown was this president's Secretary of Defense. Here's the correct response. Jimmy Carter. Looks like you'll be moving on to Final Jeopardy after this commercial break. So much depends on how you do in the Final Jeopardy category, which today is artists. So, what's your wager? And now the final clue. In 1881, he wrote to Émile Zola, "I must soon leave Véteuil, and I'm looking for a pretty place by the Seine." Let's see your response. How much do you add to your total with that correct response? This makes you our new champion, Player One, so congratulations. So long, everybody.
This is Jeopardy! Please welcome our contestant. Player one. And now, here is the host of Jeopardy, Alex Brevet.
Thanks, Johnny. Welcome to Jeopardy, everyone. Good luck to you in the Jeopardy round. For this game, the categories are as follows. The southernmost nation. Presidential campaigns. Judy. I sentence you. Do the math. And museums. Player one, start us. India, Indonesia, Iran. Player one? Right.
Yeah! Woo!
Please pick again, Player one. Nepal, Nicaragua, Norway. Player one? Yes. Please pick again, Player one. Syria, Suriname, Sweden. Let's hear it, Player one. That is correct. Player one, you pick again, please. Portugal, Papua New Guinea, Pakistan. Let's hear it, Player one. That's right. Way to go. Player one, choose again. Mongolia, Malta, Malawi. Player one? Good. Player one, you pick again, please. A campaign slogan in 1964 said, "All the way with these three letters." Okay, Player one. Yeah, good. We return to you, Player one. I pledge myself to a new deal for the American people, he said in accepting his 1932 nomination. It's Player one. Correct.
Yeah! Woo!
Player one, back to you. The 1976 ticket of Jimmy Carter and this running mate was dubbed Fritz and Grits. It's Player one. Good for you.
Yeah! Woo!
Player one, choose again. It's the Daily Double. And you're in the lead now. So what's your wager? And the Daily Double clue. In 1916, he campaigned under the slogan, "He kept us out of war." Good. You get to pick again, player one. The Whigs used a log cabin as a symbol in his 1840 campaign. It's player one. Good for you. Player one, back to you for our next selection. Her losing the Oscar for 1954's A Star is Born was called the biggest robbery since Brinks. Player one. Good for you. Player one, pick again. As Judy, this 1980 title character, Goldie Hawn said, "And I mean, look at this place. The Army couldn't afford drapes?" Okay, player one. That's right, way to go. You get to pick again, player one. Judy Reyes staffed Sacred Heart Hospital as nurse Carla Espinosa on this Zach Braff sitcom. It's player one. Yes. Player one, you pick again, please. From 1984 to 1992, Judith Light and this live-in housekeeper struggled over the question, who's the boss? Player one? Good. You again, player one. She hit the top 40 in both 1975 and 1977 with Send in the Clowns. Okay, player one. Yep. Player one, back to you. It's used in abbreviations and initials as well as to end sentences. Okay, player one.
Yeah!
You are correct. Please pick again, player one. Burton Braley contradicted himself and wrote, "This is a word you mustn't end a sentence with." It's player one.
Yeah!
Good for you. We return to you, player one. Of I did it, did you do it, or do it, it's the imperative sentence. Okay, player one.
Yeah!
That's correct. Player one, back to you for our next selection. This type of sentence has multiple independent clauses and no dependent clauses. Yes, player one? No, sorry. Here's what we wanted. Compound. Player one, back to you. The name of this punctuation mark comes from a Greek word meaning piece cut off. Let's hear it, player one. Hey, you're right. We return to you, player one. 39xy divided by 3x equals this. Player one? Good. Player 1, back to you for our next selection. Add 20, 21, and 22, multiply by 3, and you get this. Okay, Player 1. Here's the correct response. 189. Player 1, choose again. -4 times -4 times -2 times -2 equals this. It's Player 1. That's correct. Player 1, back to you for our next selection. If 7x plus 5 equals 40, x equals this. Let's hear it, Player 1. Good. We return to you, Player 1. From the Greek for stretch, it's the term for the longest side of a right triangle. Let's hear it, Player 1. Right. Player 1, choose again. The great men of France, circa 1780, are immortalized in the Grand Homme Gallery of this museum. Player 1? Is correct. You again, Player 1. The highlight of Argentina's National History Museum in this city is Candido Lopez's historical canvases. Let's hear it, Player 1. Right you are. Select again. Let's take it over to Jimmy.
New York's Museum of Modern Art exhibits paintings that feature this technique in which tiny dots of color seem to blend together.
Yes, Player 1? Yes. We return to you, Player 1. Works by Titian, Raphael, and others, sold by the U.S.S.R. to Andrew Mellon, became the core of this D.C. museum. It's Player 1. Right. And the last clue for $1,000. The Athenaeum in Hartford, Connecticut bears the name of this founder. No relation to Longfellow. Player 1? Good. The Double Jeopardy round will begin right after this. The categories for the Double Jeopardy round are the comics, insect invasion, opera names, fashion, Endgame, and South Korea. All right, if you're ready, it's Double Jeopardy time. This Peanuts character got a sister named Sally in 1959. Player 1? Right. Please pick again, Player 1. Weirdo would be another name for this Dan Ferraro comic that began as a replacement for The Far Side. Player 1? Yes. Player 1, back to you for our next selection. Mr. Munster wasn't the subject of this 1975 to 1992 Jim Unger strip. Yes, Player 1? That's correct. Player 1, back to you. In Bob Thave's comic, Frank bums around with this guy. Let's hear it, Player 1.
Yeah!
Player 1, back to you for our next selection. Answer.
Yeah!
The first of the Daily Doubles. You are in the lead right now. Decide on your wager, Player 1. Here is your clue. This edgy Aaron Magruder comic strip debuted in 1996. You got it. Player 1, back to you. Responsible for millions of cases of malaria each year, the Anopheles variety of this insect is one deadly bug. Player 1? Correct. We return to you, Player 1. About 300,000 people in Africa suffer from sleeping sickness, spread by the tsetse variety of this insect. Yes, Player 1? Yeah, good. You again, Player 1. There are 20,000 known species of these insects, including social, parasitic, and killer types. Let's hear it, Player 1. Right. You again, Player 1. Puny nickname for various insects of the family Sciaridae. Player 1?
Yeah!
Player 1, choose again. Of the 1 million species of insects, more than 300,000 are of this type, including the ladybug. Yes, Player 1? You got it. Player 1, choose again. The title figure of this Puccini opera is Cho-Cho-san. Player 1? Please pick again, Player 1. This title temptress of an 1875 opera works in a cigarette factory. It's Player 1. Correct. Player 1, you pick again, please. Amneris, daughter of Pharaoh, has an Ethiopian slave girl. Her. Okay, Player 1.
Yeah.
Yes. Please pick again, Player 1.
Yeah!
The second daily double. You are in first place. Player 1, give us a wager. Answer this. Gilda, the daughter of this hunchback, falls in love with the licentious Duke of Mantua, with dire consequences. Yep. Player 1, back to you. Tannhäuser and Lohengrin are knights. This title character of another Wagner opera is a pure fool. Okay, Player 1.
Yeah! Woo!
Player 1, you pick again, please. This Western-type tie made with a cord and a sliding clasp is also called a shoelace tie. Yes, Player 1? You are correct. Select again. In 1966, this Algerian-born designer opened a series of boutiques called Rive Gauche. It's Player 1. That's correct. Select again. These pants for women came down to just below the knee and were named for their common use in bicycling. Let's hear it, Player 1.
Yeah!
Player 1, back to you for our next selection. Several years before his topless bathing suits were the rage in 1964, women were buying his tube dresses. Let's hear it, Player 1. Correct. Please pick again, Player 1. This Spaniard opened his house in 1915 and counted the Duchess of Windsor and Princess Grace among his clients. Yes, Player 1? Yes.
Yeah! Woo!
Player 1, choose again. Christmas in Calais or Cannes? Player 1? Good. Player 1, back to you for our next selection. In a song from the film The Jungle Book, these are bear. Player 1? Hey, you're right. Player 1, back to you for our next selection. This Latin term means it does not follow. Hey, what's for lunch? Player 1?
Yeah.
Good. Player 1, pick again. Evil gold hoarders are the title guys in Wagner's Ring of the This. Yes, Player 1?
Yeah.
That is correct. Player 1, back to you. From the Arabic for hunting horn, it's another name for mother of pearl. Okay, Player 1? Yep. Player 1, pick again. With more than 10 million people, it's the largest city in South Korea. Player 1?
Yeah.
Good. You again, Player 1. The 12th century book Samguk Sagi recounts the time when this religion came to Korea from India. Yes, Player 1? Correct. Player 1, you pick again, please. At the 2008 Summer Olympics, South Korea's Cha Dong-min won the heavyweight gold medal in this national sport. Player 1? Yeah, good. Player 1, pick again. This medicinal herb of the genus Panax is native to Korea. Yes, Player 1? That's correct.
Yeah. Woo.
And the $2,000 clue? MacArthur thought the battle for this port would end the Korean War. Didn't work out that way. Yes, Player 1? That is correct.
Yeah. Woo.
Congratulations to you. You'll be continuing on to Final Jeopardy when we come back. Here's today's Final Jeopardy category. The 50 states. Please enter your wager. Our Final Jeopardy clue today is, it was the only state physically and politically formed directly because of the Civil War. Did you come up with the correct response? And that correct response will add... You've come out ahead as our champion, Player 1. Good game, everyone, and thank you so much for playing.